Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have two brand new stories, starting with one that describes the world's craziest neighbor. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Bad neighbor. About 12 years ago, we lived in an upstairs apartment in a tiny complex. We had a garage that shared a wall with the downstairs apartment. Only way to access it was the garage door, didn't connect to our house, and right next to it were 3 small parking spaces. Right outside our door was a small play area with a small jungle gym, and next to that was the pool/hot tub. We'd been there for a year, myself, husband, DH, daughter, DD, 13, son, DS, 3, and 2 cats. We both worked, so during the day, DS was at daycare and DD at school. We were all out of the house no later than 7:30 a.m., and DD would get home about 4 p.m., and we'd arrive after 6, except Thursdays. I always had Thursdays off, but would take DS to daycare anyway, and spend the morning by myself playing World of Warcraft, getting shopping and cleaning done, etc. A new neighbor moved in downstairs, a 20-something-year-old guy and his female friend. For the first few months, no problems as far as we knew. We parked my car in the garage, and DH would park in one of the spaces by the garage, or if those were full, he'd park outside the complex on the street. No big deal. One morning, I went to leave, and there was a car parked partially in front of my garage and partially behind DH's car that was parked in the spot next to the garage, blocking us both in. Recognizing the car, I knocked on the neighbor's door and asked him to move so we could leave. He gave me a bit of an attitude and told me he just got home from work and was about to go to sleep. No problem. Just move the car and you can have DH's spot and go back to sleep. Half an hour, I'm trying to get this guy to move. Finally told him to move the damn car or I was going to call the cops. He moved, we left, he parked, and the day went on. From that day forward, it went downhill. For the next 2 months, he complained about noise, any noise. Now, I'll admit we had a 3-year-old and he liked to play, but it wasn't during the complex's quiet hours, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and we kept the inside jumping and running to a minimum. But it's going to happen with a 3-year-old, and living in an apartment, you're going to get some noise from neighbors. But this guy took it to the extreme. If I ran the garbage disposal, he banged on the ceiling. If anyone was showering and dropped a bottle, he banged. Walking across the floor at noon, banging. One Thursday, only me at home, sitting at my computer desk playing World of Warcraft, and the cats ran across the floor, and he banged. 2 less than 10-pound cats made so much noise he had to bang on the ceiling. It got to the point where we would just find things to do during the weekend, so we weren't home listening to the banging and yelling. The last straw came when one day I was outside, sitting on the porch, watching DD and DS play. The guy came out and started screaming at the kids. He didn't see me on the porch, profanity-laden. I hadn't heard him scream at them before, so I was a bit in shock. He called them some pretty nasty names. I came down the stairs and told him to shut the fark up and sent the kids upstairs. He made a comment about kicking my butt, and if I didn't shut those effing B-turds up, he'd shut them up permanently. I went to the office and filed a complaint and called DH. Strangely enough, he'd never complained to the office about our noise. DH arrived home about 30 minutes later and proceeded to bang on the guy's front door. DH was an impressive specimen back then, 6'4", former Marine, trained in Krav Maga and MMA, and this guy was maybe 5'7" and weighed as much as me if he was soaking wet. DH asked, in his "Am I done with your BS" voice, what the guy's problem was. The guy stammered that he had to sleep during the day because he worked overnight at a casino and he needed to sleep. DH calmly pointed out he picked a downstairs apartment next to a pool and play area, and he would have to deal with some noise from these items during the non-quiet hours. We were doing our best to keep it down, but yelling profanities at a 13 and 3-year-old were not a good thing, nor was threatening them. The guy stammered an apology, shut the door, and DH came upstairs. He made it as far as our bedroom, literally 10 steps from the front door, when the guy started banging on the ceiling. DS and DD were both sitting on the couch watching a movie, and I was walking with DH. Left the next day for a 4-day weekend, quick trip to Disneyland, and the office notified us we had received a complaint for one of the days we were out of state. We showed them the hotel receipt pictures of us at Disneyland and asked how we could be making noise when we were gone. They agreed the guy was nuts and that he complained about noise at the pool/hot tub and play areas all the time. They told him nothing could be done. It wasn't excessive and it wasn't quiet hours. The next day, DS is down for a nap. DD and DH were gone somewhere and I was putting away groceries and the guy started banging on the front door. I answered it and he started screaming that we were making noise again and that he was done. I started shutting the door and he pushed it into me, hitting me in the arm. I shoved it shut and called DH. He came tearing home and called the cops. We filed a report, they went and talked to the guy and told us to avoid him and document everything. A couple days later, after going to the office and documenting every time he banged on the ceiling, I had the kids down at the play area and DH was on the porch watching us. Guy came outside screaming nasty things at us again and threatened to shoot me until I pointed up at DH. Guy saw DH, turned around and went back into his house. DH called the cops to file yet another report. We decided it was time to move. We were done with this guy. The office was okay with letting us out of our lease with no penalty and told us they were evicting the guy, but understood we didn't want to risk anything with the kids since this was getting out of hand. We weren't the only people complaining about the guy's behavior. His next-door neighbors were moving too because of his banging on their shared walls. We found a really nice townhome condo, gated community, etc. for about what we were paying, got approved, and started the moving process. Happened really quickly, too. Less than a week from application to move in, the day we were moving our stuff out, DH's co-workers came to help. The guy came out to yell about the excessive noise. To be fair, we weren't even trying to be quiet, being done with his BS at this point, and shut up when he saw 6 men just staring at him. Got all moved, went back to clean the apartment, had the kids with me. DD and I were cleaning the kitchen shelves and DS was asleep, and sure enough, the guy started banging again. The only things we had left to do were the floors at that point, so I sent the kids outside while I swept and mopped, and was planning on carpet cleaning after dropping the kids off at the new place. They were at the play area sitting, not running around or anything, and he came out and cussed at them again. He had a baseball bat in his hand, so I put the kids in the car, got all my stuff, and went to the office. I apologized for not cleaning the carpets, but that we were done. And here's the video of him screaming profanities at the kids. No worries, they said, and they called the police for me, and we filed another report, and I got my entire deposit back. At the new place that afternoon, we're in the office dropping off a form, and who would come in but Bad Neighbor? He was applying to live in our new place. I pulled our leasing agent aside and gave her the rundown of the guy and showed her the police reports and paperwork from the old complex. She went to the guy, handed him back his application and check, and told him he would not be renting at any of their complexes in the area. He asked why, and she said she saw the complaints about him, and they didn't want that kind of mess at their properties. He got PO'd and started to storm out. Saw us sitting there. I just waved my fingers at him. Funny thing, this company ran 6 complexes in our area. There were so many more complexes with so many more companies, but apparently there's a network among them, and he couldn't get a place at any of the nicer complexes, according to our leasing agent. If I see him again, I'm thinking of getting a restraining order in case he settles anywhere near us, because really, to hell with this guy. I'd want his butt in jail if he ever came near my kids again after crap like that. And our last story. Fire me for a bullcrap reason, and you will pay. So I used to work for a particular small electronics company who shall remain nameless, but I can tell you they sell batteries and light bulbs in that order. It was a privately owned franchise, and I'd worked there for almost 2 years, second only to the store's manager in overall sales. I'd made roughly $150,000 from November to the August when I was fired at a small store with 4 employees, and had only seen a raise of 25 cents to $10.25 in those 2 years. Well, we also happened to repair cell phones. I had a guy come in with a phone we'd worked on because his front-facing camera had stopped working. I replaced it with no dice. I called our useless support team with no useful suggestions. Basically, my only option was to ask him to come back tomorrow or when my manager was in. He was a wizard with cell phones. This guy lived a good 60 miles away, near where I lived at the time, so I empathized with him, and we'd made our name on not being a-holes. So what I did was return the original cost of the cell phone repair to his card and recharged it to my personal card. I was the one who'd originally repaired the cell phone, so I felt responsible, to pay him for his time, gas, and continued patronage of our store. I then left after the day and went on vacation over the weekend to visit my girlfriend in California. When I came back on Tuesday, I was told I had been fired for returning a repair that was out of its 2-week return period. After I picked up my jaw from the floor and tried to explain I'd paid for it personally, I was basically told it didn't matter and I was still fired. I'd known for some time that this franchise was breaking several laws. OSHA violations I'd complained about, EPA regulations I'd complained about, and I suspect this is why I was fired in the end, so I sent a few pictures I'd made of fluorescent tubes and lithium batteries in a dumpster, things like extension cords taped to the floor and the eye wash station blocked by mounds of crap. We worked with battery acid and sent it all to the proper authorities. A few months later, I got a message from a friend who works in the store next door that they were hit hard in both cases. They couldn't pay the huge fines and had to close. I feel satisfied and now work in the same field without financial losses and with proper employees. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.